Me too.
Comes from the school. Do you wear those as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I just remove them only before to bed.
okay. Yeah, so they're very useful. They help help with sleep if you're on the computer all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely noticed an improvement in my sleep after I got these. So who else has just joined? Chalendra has joined, and Nina, welcome. Yeah, so I only wear glasses if I have to, but these ones are just for blue light. I really recommend them to everyone, especially if you're doing more things online. It really helps. Narul Amin says, please give me the password. So it's for pro members only. I'm sorry, I don't have a password. Mathan joined, hello. Sarah's joined, welcome back. So Jonathan, are you also short-sighted or long-sighted? We say in English. So it means, do you see long distance or short distance better?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Sarah. How are you?
I am fine. What about you?
I'm good. I'm good today. It's a very chilly winter's day, very foggy here in South Africa, in Cape Town. So Jonathan, are you short-sighted or long-sighted? Do you know those terms?
Long sight, ma'am.
Okay, long-sighted, yeah. Me as well, yeah. So I don't need glasses to read or things like that. Samira's joined. Hi, Samira, welcome. Hi, Sanjukta. Hello, everyone. So I'm so glad there weren't technical issues today, which is great. So I hope you've all been having a good day and that you're having a good evening. Today, we're going to try and cover a lot of different topics. So we'll continue with second conditionals and third conditionals in a few lessons times, a bit on Sunday, but we're just going to cover a lot of different topics today. So we'll do a bit of a quiz. I'll ask you questions on different topics. So if anyone has any questions before we do that, let me know. The idea is to try and go through lots of different topics and test you on lots of different topics. Hi Gupta, welcome. Hi Ranjit. So lots of you joining. So does anyone in the Zoom room or the chat? Yeah?
Why this class started 10 minutes later than every day?
So yeah, on Thursdays, I have a very busy schedule. I have a class just before that finishes at 7. So usually it runs over a little bit because my student usually has questions and things like that. So it's very difficult to start just at 7 in this class. That's why. So usually on Thursdays, it starts at 7:10. Welcome, Nami Chand. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi. Hi, both of you. I think I can hear you both speaking.
What?
Nami Chand, how
are you, ma'am?
I'm good. I'm good today. It's a nice, nice cold day outside. I don't know if you can see, it's very foggy. And I think somebody yesterday wanted me to show the view that we have here. So you can see the sky is actually very white today. It's, white clouds filling up the sky, gray clouds. But it's
and
nice
your
and cozy indoors.
spectacles is very beautiful.
Pardon?
Your spectacles looks is very beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, they're quite cool. They're completely transparent. So it's very useful. So they don't block my vision at all, which is great.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Imtiaz. How are you?
Fine, ma'am. What about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Ma'am, would you like to tell me what's the time in your country?
So here it's now 4:45. So 3:45. Yeah. So in English, we have very strange ways of using time. And it's actually different across different English speaking countries. So that's quite an interesting thing to think about. I'll just show you. So we say 3:45 means 15 minutes to
I,
4.
I was also lived in South Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, Congo. I also visited there.
Okay, was it for holiday or for work?
And where are you just now? Which
So in
country?
Cape Town. In Cape
Cape Town.
Town. Have you visited Cape Town in South Africa?
Okay. Whenever you come to Uganda, Rwanda, or Congo,
I've never been there. I would like to travel across the whole of Africa. Did you enjoy your trip in Uganda and Rwanda?
yeah,
Was it for holiday or was it for work?
okay.
Samira has a question. Yeah, Samira, please ask your question. So we often say 3:45 means 3:45. 3:45 means quarter of an hour left until 4. That's what it means. Another strange time phrase that we say is half 3. So that would be 3:30, but we've left out 3:30. So 3:30 or 3:30. So we often say that in England, they don't understand it here in South Africa. If I say to somebody, oh, it's 3:30 now, they won't understand what I mean. So they don't use that in South Africa, in Australia and other English speaking countries. They just use it in England a lot. So we say 3:30, 3:30 for 3:30. So that's a weird way of explaining time. Samira says, do all sentence, somebody's just joining. Samira says, do all sentences with the second conditional start with if? Yeah, so for the second conditional, it's really important to show that it's, that when we use if, because we're showing that it's very unlikely that it didn't happen. So we definitely have to use if for the second conditional. But there are other conditionals where you don't always have to use if, but the second conditional is not one of them. We need if for the second conditional. So I hope that answers your question, Samira. So we can form the second conditional like this. So this is the form, if. So some mints joining. So we need if, that's really important. So it's if. Sometimes it's very hard to type in the right place. If plus the past simple. So we saw that yesterday, on Tuesday, how we had to use the past tense. The second part is would. Often, sometimes it's could. So there is that option as well to use could in the second part. Most of the time it's would. And then you have the infinitive, the bare infinitive. So that means it's the unchanged verb without the to. So we have, if I won the lottery, I would buy a big house. So if I won it now, I would do that in the future. So we're still talking about the present and the future. The second conditional is for the present and the future, not something that happened in the past. But we are still using the past verb, the past simple. So that's how we form the second conditional. So we have to use if. So it was the zero conditional, which we said you can use if or when. You don't have to use if. So I hope that answers your question. Welcome, Sumit. Welcome today. Welcome back.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, ma'am.
Good. Have you had a good day today? A productive day or a restful day? What kind of day has it been for you?
It's restful day today.
Ah, excellent. That's nice. That's lovely. I think restful days are so important. Our society often focuses on just doing everything that you can. And I think we have to learn as adults that it's very important to take rest and recover energy. Lovely, beautiful diagram, Sarah. That's really lovely.
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Meena. How are you?
Hi, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to ask a question, ma'am. When we talking about the weekend, there is a many way to respond. So I just in the phrase, I was pretty low-key, Lowkey.
Pretty lucky. Lucky.
Lucky.
Yeah.
So ma'am, what
It's,
does this Lucky or Low, ma'am?
lucky.
Okay.
Lucky. Yeah. Lucky. I was pretty lucky. Here, pretty means quite. It's used as an adverb, not an adjective.
Okay. And another is wild weekend, ma'am. Someone says I had a wild.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, it just cut out. I didn't. So
wild
here,
weekend, ma'am. I had a
wild weekend. Yeah.
Wild weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. If something's wild, a crazy weekend, lots happened. It sounds like somebody might have been out partying, going to clubs, or they had a crazy experience. Maybe they had lots of fun. It could mean lots of things. It usually just means that lots of interesting things happened that were quite crazy and unexpected. So yeah, wild here is crazy, not in a negative way, but in a surprising, amazing, hard to describe way. So it's wild. Yeah. Yeah. So here, I was pretty lucky. Yeah. You have another one?
No, ma'am. Just you clear your
Okay.
pretty.
Yeah. So it's not pretty. It's not pretty as in looks. It's the adverb here. So excellent. Sarah wrote pretty ugly. Yeah. So often we think of that as an oxymoron. Pretty ugly. So an oxymoron is when you combine two words that have an opposite meaning. Excellent phrase, Sarah. Yeah. So pretty ugly because they mean the opposite things. It's an oxymoron, but we can put them together and it has a different meaning. So here it's not pretty as in good looking, it's pretty as in quite. So using it as an adverb, it's saying, oh, they're pretty ugly. They're quite ugly. I was pretty lucky that night. I was quite lucky that night. That I got home in time, something like that. Does that make sense, Meena?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Another one is wind down, ma'am. I just wind down.
Wind down. Yeah, wind down.
Wind down.
Yeah. To wind down is to relax. Yeah. So to
Okay.
relax, sometimes we need to wind down at the end of the day. We often say that. I need to wind down at the end of the day of a long working day. People might say that. Sometimes people ask the question, how do you wind down at the end of the day? Oh, I like to
Okay.
relax by watching TV. So it means to relax, de-stress. So to relax, to de-stress,
Ma'am,
to decompress, we also say. Yeah?
I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Wind down.
I want to say one last thing about wind down, which is quite interesting. Often when we talk about stress, we use the same physical words we use with pressure or with items that are being pressed. So to wind down, you can think of a toy that's been wound up like a clock, a mechanical clock. You wind it up and it goes, and then slowly it starts winding down, we say. So that's where that idea comes from. And the same with to decompress. When we compress something, we tighten it, we put a lot of pressure. So pressure can have the same meaning as stress. I feel so stressed. I'm under so much pressure. Things are pushing down on me physically. It feels like that. So that's why we talk about decompressing, releasing and relaxing. So often with stress or needing to relax, we use those same physical words. So that's quite interesting, I think. Yeah, so who had the question?
Ma'am, I had a question.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of enormity?
Enormity. So enormity means the grandness of something, the big thing of it. So usually with enormity, it's to describe the hugeness of an issue. So people might say, we might talk about the huge size of something, but usually it's about the huge importance of something. So you might say the enormity of the issue. This is a huge issue. It's the huge importance. The enormity of the issue of climate change, which affects us all. So here it's talking about importance. Does that make sense?
I got it, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. Does anyone else have a question? So you can also think of it how severe. Severe is another good word. Extremely serious or important. Those are all synonyms. Does anyone else have a question about words that they don't know or phrases? So excellent. Mina gave some really good ones that we use a lot. To wind down a wild weekend, you might hear teenagers or young people saying that, or young professionals might often say that. And then the other one, pretty lucky. Yeah, pretty we use a lot as an adverb. So somebody might say, that was pretty cool. That was pretty awesome. It's an informal use of adverbs, of explaining how, of using it to talk about an adjective, but we use it very commonly in speech. So pretty is the adverb because it's describing how an adjective was done. So the adverb is pretty and cool is the adjective. Yeah, so you might hear that a lot. So if you hear what sounds like two adjectives next together, then the pretty or the first one is usually used as an adverb. So it might mean quite. Yeah, I'll try and think of some other examples because it's a very interesting idea. Sarika says, wind up your toys or wind up your work means. So we talk about to wind down, to de-stress. If you wind somebody up, you stress them out, you annoy them, you're purposely trying to annoy them or provoke them. So to wind down means to relax, de-stress, to wind someone up means to provoke someone on purpose. We might, if somebody's teasing someone, we might say, oh, you're winding him up, stop it, don't say that. Somebody might say that, a parent might say that to their two children if they're teasing each other. Stop winding your brother up, stop winding your sister up. But those ideas come from the physical, mechanical toys or clocks where you have to turn them, you have to wind them to make them move. That's where the idea comes from. So when we wind down, we're turning off, we're switching off. We also use that idea to switch off. Sometimes I need my brain to switch off. That means to actually relax, not to be completely off. So we use these same terms. Nihal says, what's the simple technique to remember all 10 structures? So drawing a table of all the tenses, that's a very good idea. We will go through them. So that's something that's still on my list of things to go through. Do a summary and an easy way to remember tenses. And when I set up my YouTube channel, which I'll do soon, I'll also do that as one of the first topics.
What's your channel's name, ma'am?
I haven't set it up yet, but I'll let you know when I do. I'm in the process of doing it. Sarika says,
Okay.
I'm feeling pretty low. Yeah, excellent. I'm feeling pretty low. Yeah, so that makes sense. Low here means another word which is confusing, down, which means a bit depressed. So depressed or sad. Not as extreme as depressed, but I'm feeling a little sad, a little down, we say. So down, low, the idea that you're physically low or down means you're sad or depressed. So I'm feeling pretty low. I'm feeling quite low today. Yes, I'm feeling quite sad. I'm feeling quite low in energy. I'm feeling quite down. So yeah, that's right, Sarika. Excellent. Yeah. So if anyone else has any questions, let me know. So I think it's very interesting how we use these ideas of the physical idea of winding up and winding down as well, and that we also use those for stress and to relax. Okay, so we're going to look at a little bit of different topics. Does anyone have any questions before I start asking you some questions? Okay, excellent. So if any ideas come to mind, if you think of any ideas, let me know. Iqbal said it's very hard. It is. Tenses are very hard. Nihal says phonemes. Yeah, phonemes are the sounds that we make, the individual sounds. We can combine them in different ways. So phonemes are just the sounds we make from the alphabet. So it's actually easier to practice pronouncing whole words than individual sounds. But if you know that there's a sound that you keep getting wrong, practice that individually and then practice it in different words. The way we combine words sometimes changes the sound of the phonemes. Okay, so we're gonna start with questions, and we'll do different topics. So we're going to look at some, again, conversational phrases, something you might say to somebody else, you might talk about to somebody else. So a way to make suggestions. Yeah, Sarah, it's okay, no problem. What are you sorry about? Pardon?
I am drawing on the screen.
No problem. No problem. Your drawings are lovely. I'm sure people are enjoying them. Okay. So thinking about making and responding to suggestions. So how can you make suggestions to others and respond to suggestions they have to you? So that's what we're going to look at first, this topic. Okay. So imagine somebody says this to you. They say, I'm so bored at the moment. I have nothing to do at weekends. Okay, so we're going to look at two options, but before we look at some two options that you can choose, does anyone want to try out some ways you can respond to that? To somebody saying that? Does anyone have a ways to make a suggestion to this person who says, I'm so bored at the moment, I have nothing to do at weekends? What would you say to them? What advice would you give? Yeah?
Do you have any ideas? Do you have any ideas? Meena,
So
ma'am.
so that's asking them a question. Yeah, how can we make a suggestion? So give them advice without a question. Yeah, excellent. So Chisan says, how about watching a movie? Yeah, it's in a question form, but it's actually a suggestion. How about watching a movie? Yeah. So excellent, Chitan. That's a great suggestion. You're making a suggestion, but in a question form. So we can do that when you use how about. You're suggesting something that you think might be suitable for them. How about doing this? How about doing that? So you're asking them if maybe they think your suggestion is right. How about you do this? Excellent. And you need the ing form of the verb. So that's important. That's what we're going to think about. Aisha says, can we hang out together? Yeah, so the idea is great. But again, we need it in the suggestion form, in an advice form. So that's a question form. Can we means you want to know if they will allow you to do something, if they want to do something. So rather than can we hang out together, you can say we can hang out together. And be careful, Aisha, because hung is the past form. So because you're making a suggestion, you want it to be about the present. We can hang out together. You don't want it to be about the past, but excellent idea, Aisha. Excellent, Shailendra. Shailendra says you should plan a visit to a nearby picnic spot. Yeah. So more of you should. So it's more something that you're telling them to do, more than why don't you? Or how about? That's more of something that's not forcing them to do it, but you should means you really think they should do it. You really think that it's something that they must do. So you should visit. So you should plan a visit to, we say a nearby picnic spot. Yeah, excellent. So we have 3 different forms. You should, you really think they must do it. How about? Question form. To offer suggestions or advice. So you're really not forcing them to do it. You're really not saying that it's something they must do. It's very, very polite. How about? And you're just trying to be considerate to give them options. We can, again, it's an offer. We can do this. So that's another way. You should. You're telling them that you really think that following your advice is a good idea. So much stronger. You should is much stronger. Sarika says, how about making or trying new dishes? Excellent. Well done. Vishnu says, you visit any natural place. You can say you can visit. You can visit. If you say you visit, that's an order. You would just need to add another helping verb there. So you can say you must visit. That becomes an order. When we say you can visit, that's something you're telling them that is possible for them to do. So we need a helping verb there. So you notice we have helping verbs with suggestions very often. How about? We have the question form, which gives it another word that's helping the verb. It's not another verb. Should is a helping verb. Nehal says, we'll play games. Yeah, great. You're telling them something that is definitely going to happen in the future. So you've made the plan for them. We will play games. Excellent. Hello, Vichan from Thailand. Well done. Thank you for joining. And great, I think you're the first person we've had from Thailand, so it's very exciting. No, that's not true. We've had people from Thailand before, but not very often. Iqbal, we're going to do another simpler question. I just want people's ideas. I'm going to give you a question that will make it easier. Shuhado says, can we have a plan to go to the nearby sea beach together? So we can say, we can. Can we? You're saying, you're asking them if it's okay. Can we? But when you make a suggestion, we say we can, something we can do. So we can for a suggestion. We can. Can we is asking for permission. So we're looking at giving advice. We're not asking if we're allowed to do something. We're asking for permission with can we, but here we want to offer some advice. So we can. We're showing something that's a possibility. So Iqbal, we're looking at different ways to give people advice or suggestions. How can we form those sentences? So Shahado, you can say, we can plan to go to the nearby. We say either sea or beach. We don't combine those nouns. So we can go to the nearby beach or the nearby sea. And then we don't need a question. So those are the different forms. Vishnu says, you watch any comedy movie. So again, you watch, you plus the verb alone sounds a little bit like an order. You do this, you watch. So we need you can to make it a suggestion. You can watch. It can be advice or permission. But sometimes when you're giving advice, it's a bit like giving permission to do something. So you can watch, or you could watch as well. You can use both. You can watch, you could watch. Thank you, Vichan. That's very nice of you. Nihal says you must listen songs. So must is an order, Nihal. So we don't use must with suggestions. Must is an order. Must is something you're forcing someone to do. You're telling them that they have to do. So we want to focus on being polite, on providing options. We're providing options, suggestions, and advice. You can, we can, you could watch, you could listen, you could go to, we can visit, we can see a new film. So those are ways to offer suggestions. How about doing this? An excellent one from Sarika. Sarika says there are many things you can do, like trying new dishes, going for a walk, playing games. Excellent, Sarika. Do some fruitful things. Yeah. When you say there are things you can do, such as we need the ing. Shahada said, would you mind having dinner tonight with me? Yeah, so that's asking somebody if they want to. It's about what they want to do, not giving them ideas. So that's more like asking somebody out. Mina says, it might be a good idea. Excellent, Mina, it might be a good idea. Another great way to offer suggestions. It might be a good idea. So that's not very certain. It might be. I'm not saying that it's something that it will be a good idea. It's not definite. So might is making it less definite. It might be a good idea to catch up with friends. So might is less certain. You don't know if they will like your idea. It might be a good idea, but it might not. Sarika says, giving suggestions or advice is very easy, but to follow it is very difficult. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. We often find it easier to give advice to other people and find it very hard to take it for ourselves or understand ourselves like we understand other people. It always seems simpler when it's other people. That's very true. Welcome Subhadeep and Virsikala, welcome. Somebody says, how about having a party together? Excellent. So excellent ideas, everyone, really great sentences. So I'm going to give you two options now. They're very similar sentences, so something that you could say, but I want you to tell me which is the correct grammar. So this is about using it in a specific form, but what grammar do we use for these kind of sentences? So this is actually the one that Chetan mentioned, the how about. So how do we use how about? We're thinking about how to use how about. How about taking up a hobby? That's option one. Or how about take up a hobby? Does anybody know which is the correct one?
First one. How about
excellent.
Taking up a hobby?
Yeah, excellent. Well done. So we really need the ing form. Yeah, how about taking up a hobby? That's the correct one. So the second one is incorrect. Did anyone think it was the second one? Okay, Iqbal, we're going to do another question. Vichan says, I heard about American bully Asian people in the USA in every day. Yeah, so you're talking about crimes against Asian people in America. Yeah, that has happened more recently, and that has been a big issue, and people are trying to tackle it. They're becoming more aware of it. Yeah, it is a big problem. I think in America, violence against different people is a problem, and it's become more of a problem since Trump was in power. Excellent, Nihal, well done. Excellent, Shahada, well done. Welcome, Shawani, so I'll send you the invite. Okay, so let's look at another question. And this time I'm just going to give you an option. And then if you have your own suggestions for this question, please let me know. Okay, so somebody says to you, I really need to improve, so to make better my English vocabulary. I always use the same words. So this person wants to know how can they learn new words, increase our vocabulary, we say. So we talk about making our vocabulary better. So here are the two options. You can say, I recommend. So both phrases are starting with I recommend. That's a way that you can suggest things to people. I recommend. It's less forceful than you should. You're not telling them, I recommend. It's like saying I suggest. So I recommend and I suggest have a very similar meaning. They're synonyms of each other, which means they have the same meaning. So it means I suggest. So that's another way to offer advice. I recommend. So the first one is I recommend to read in English. The second one is I recommend reading in English. Does anyone know which is the correct form?
Ma'am, second one is correct, ma'am. Recommend reading, because when we use suggest, recommend, or purpose, we always use ing form.
Excellent. Well done, Mina. Yeah, that's exactly correct. So again, we need the ing form here. So we need it with recommend, with I recommend. We need it with how about. I recommend followed by the direct verb. That's when we need it. You could change the sentence and say, Yeah, excellent, Mina. I recommend that you. Once we include the subject, we don't need to have the ing form. So then we would say, I recommend you read some English every day. So we only need the ing form when it's straight after recommend or how about. So you can say, how about reading some books? You can also say, how about you try to read more books? So there are more options when you separate the recommend or how about from the word.
Ma'am, can we say, have you thought about?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that's a really good way of writing a suggestion. Let me try and make my screen a bit bigger.
Ma'am, I have a sentence.
Yeah.
I recommend to watch movies in English.
So remember, we need straight after the recommend, we need an ing form of the verb. So I recommend watching films in English. Does that make sense, Jonathan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I recommend watching films in English. You can say, I recommend that you watch films in English. So you can add the verb without the ing form if you put the subject before it. I recommend that you watch. Mina had a great one. Have you thought about reading in English? Have you thought about reading more books? So that's another great way of suggesting. Thank you, Vichan. I'm very glad that you've joined. Vichan says, certainly reading books in English. Yeah, that's a really good way to improve vocabulary. So does anyone have any other ways that they would suggest things to this person?
May I?
Yeah?
Ma'am, if I say I recommend that person who teach very well.
I can recommend to you. So when it's a different kind of recommend. This is when you're talking about recommending someone. So it's a different form. You're not recommending an activity, you're recommending a person. Is that right? You're recommending someone. So you can say, I can recommend a good teacher to you. So there's a difference with recommending someone. I can recommend a good hairdresser. I can recommend a good teacher. I can recommend a good plumber. I can recommend a good artist. That's a different thing than recommending an activity. Does that make sense, Imtiaz?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent.
Ma'am?
Nehal said, hold on 1 second. Nehal says for suggestions, can we use, you can try. Excellent, Nehal. Yeah, you can try reading in English. So we also need the ing form. Yeah, Mina?
Ma'am, we can say, I advise you, I encourage you, I advise you reading a book.
I
or
advise you to read. I advise you to read. So the advise needs the to, the infinitive.
Okay.
Because we have the subject. I advise you to read. So if the subject, you, the different subject, is next to the verb, then the verb isn't the ing form. I advise you to read. I encourage you to. I recommend that you read. But I recommend reading in English. Does that make sense, Mina?
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, when we can say, I urge you to be.
Yeah, I urge you to. That's more of something that you feel is very important that they do, but you can use it as a suggestion as well. Maybe when you're suggesting things that are more serious, in more serious situations, if you really, really feel that it's something they should do, you might say, I urge you to. I really think you need to do this for your health, or it's really important. I encourage you to is very friendly, very helpful. I advise you to is more formal. So slightly different meanings there. When you're encouraging somebody, it means you want them to do well. If you urge somebody, it means you really are desperate for them to do something. You really think they need to do something. So slight different meanings, but you're right, they can all be used for different kinds of suggestions. Yeah. Excellent. Do you have any other questions, Mina? Or any other ideas?
You had better go, or when we make strong, when we give strong advice, so we can say you had better go to the hospital.
Yeah, so that's more. You had better is more of an order. You had better. You're telling somebody what to do. You had better do that. So you're telling somebody, it's giving them an order, not a suggestion. There's no choice for the person. You are telling them what they have to do. With suggestions, it's about giving a choice to somebody. You're offering them an idea. But you had better is definitely an order. It's a threat in a way. Sometimes it can be a loving threat if we care about the person. If you're a parent, you might say to your kids, you had better tidy your room. So it might be because you care about somebody, but it is a bit of a threat, a bit of an order, because you can say you had better do this or else, or I will do something if you don't. So it's a bit of a threat and an order. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Excellent. Bichan says I reading. So I read. So if you're saying I, straight away you say I read. Again, it's a bit like the subject is next to it. I read English. I read in English about politics. So we can say about politics, or I read political English. Means you read English words that are about politics. Excellent, Bichan. That's very impressive. Very interesting. So I wonder, is politics an interest of yours, or do you work in politics? Is it a passion of yours, a hobby? It's very interesting, Bichan. Let us know. Nihal says, we shall try. We shall try. Yeah, that's a group thing, a team thing. You're saying this is something we can do. So it's not a suggestion. It might be something you say to a team, to encourage a team, to get a team to work together, to explain something that they all need to do. We shall try this. If you say, how about we try? That's a suggestion. But great ideas, Nihal. Okay, so let's look at another example. Hi, Bijendra, how are you? Okay, but if anyone has any questions about anything we talked about before, let me know. Don't be afraid if you think it's too late to ask a question. It never is. Any questions are welcome. Okay, so here's something else that somebody might say to you. I'm really stressed at the moment. So if you have a friend who's saying to you, I'm really stressed at the moment, or a family member, I'm working really hard. Does anyone have suggestions for this person? These are two that I'm going to put. So why not try? Again, we had somebody say that. Yeah?
Ma'am, I think you should stay home and take rest.
Excellent. So how would you say that to that person directly? I think you should rest.
Sorry, ma'am.
How would you say it to the person directly? If I said to you, I'm really stressed at the moment, I'm working really hard, Mina, how would you advise me or make a suggestion to me?
I suggest you you should take a rest.
I suggest that you. I suggest that
Yes,
you.
I suggest that you.
Excellent. Well done, Mina. Yeah, I suggest that you take a rest. Excellent. Sarika says, I recommend you should. So